of electrodynamics. This is our lecture number 9, and we have studied about electrostate and magnetostate. So this is just the ending or winding up all the topics. And in this lecture, obviously, this is an important lecture. Today's lecture is quite important in the aspect of exams also. And I am just winding up this magnetostate, and from the next lecture we'll study something new like electromagnetic waves. I'll teach you from next lecture. So this is the tentative outline for today's lecture. Basically, we have to study about electromagnetic induction in this lecture. So electromagnetic induction, having Faraday's law, induced currents, Lange law, EMF, flux, electric fields, etc. All the things we'll study one by one. So basically, what is electromagnetic induction? You all know the definition because you have studied in your high school, like 11th and 12th, you have studied already. So a changing magnetic field or intensity or movement will induce an electromotive force. Electromotive force, not electric force, not gravitational force, that is electromotive force. So this electromotive force is the specific term for the induced force due to magnetic field. So in a closed electric circuit, a changing magnetic field will produce an electric current. How? We'll see later on. So this formula is very important. You can see on your screen, epsilon equals to minus dFB over dt. This is the important formula, and many questions in NET, JRF, JEST, and GET, and all those exams related to physics, they are asking questions on this formula frequently. Okay, so this is important formula. How to use and where to use, I'll tell you in this lecture. So Faraday, the scientist Faraday did some experiments and told us some results. So what was that experiment? So induction was discovered by Sir Michael Faraday in 1831, and you can see in this picture, this is a coil, and you can see that a magnet is there. South pole of the magnet, north pole of the magnet. These are some imaginary lines emerging from the poles of the magnets here and here. So suppose this coil is stationary and the magnet is moving with velocity v. Okay, so this moving magnet is inducing a current. So what will be the direction of current? So basically, this is the diagram. In the left, this was the coil, and in the right, there is EMF with this coil, attached some EMF with this coil. Now, if it is the coil where there is no EMF, what we are saying? We are saying that this magnet will induce EMF. So now here is EMF. And what will happen? The direction of magnetic field and surface of area having some angle theta, and thus we get some change in magnetic flux, like phi b equals to b dot a, and it has the unit Tesla into meter square, that means Weber. So this was your magnet. This is some rings like coil, that coil we are talking about, and these are magnetic field lines, and the angle between B and DA is theta, and this is the formula of that magnetic flux. You know this thing. Okay, we can write it as B dot DA cos theta 2. So comparing these two diagrams, what Faraday concluded? Moving magnet is changing the flux, which we are denoting by phi b. This changing flux is inducing a electromotive force. Okay, and yes, changing the flux induces an electromotive force. Yeah. So what is the expression for that force? That is EMF E equals to minus d phi b or dt. So this d phi b or dt is basically the rate of change of magnetic flux in that loop. Okay. So Faraday gives some assumptions and then some results. He showed that for a coil, for a changing electromotive force, currents are also generating due to that electric field is also generating, and we can find out some terms like electric field, electromotive force, induced currents, and etc. Now here comes Lenz. What Mr. Lenz is saying. Actually, the Lenz law is quite simple, but what Lenz told us the direction of those induced EMF and induced currents. Those currents were induced in the coil now. So Lenz law will tell us the direction of those currents. So the induced EMF is directed so that any induced current flow will oppose the change in magnetic flux. So we can say that decreasing magnetic flux means EMF creates additional magnetic field, and if we are increasing flux, then opposed magnetic field. Increasing flux means we are making those come together. Decreasing magnetic flux means we are making them go apart from each other. Okay, towards and apart from each other. So this was our diagram initially. It is the magnet, it is the coil. The magnet is moving with velocity v. So what will be the direction of induced current? You can see here. This will be the direction. This is your Lenz law. Okay, you can see the arrow now. So this is the direction of current due to the EMF, due to the changing magnetic field of the coil. So basically what Lenz did, Lenz law is about the current induced in the loop will generate a field B star which will be opposite to the original field B. Okay, so you guys have to remember all these things. Now we'll talk about EMF. So motional EMF. What is motional EMF? Now in the previous diagram, in this diagram I have told you that the coil is stationary and the magnet was moving. But let us change the condition now. Now the coil is moving. This is our coil. Okay, it is in rectangular format now, and we are moving this coil in a uniform magnetic field. Like I am pulling it here and then pushing it here, then pulling it here, then pushing it here. So the velocity of this coil is V. The thickness we can say or breadth we can say is D. Okay, and here is the resistance. No use of this, will not study about this resistance, but the basic is the direction of magnetic field. What does this cross is showing? This cross is showing that the direction of magnetic field is into the screen, means into the page. Okay, so the velocity of the coil is perpendicular to the applied magnetic field. Now what results we will get? So we'll use Faraday's law. Flux phi b will be b dot a means area, area means breadth into length. So this x was your length and d was your breadth, so d into x and b is b. So what does it means if we are doing d phi b over dt? Put the value of this phi b here. So d b dx over dt. Okay, and b and d are constant with respect to this time. So dx over dt will be there. So we are getting b d into v. Now this minus sign will show the direction of induced magnetic field, sorry, the direction of induced current, okay, or induced EMF. So we know that the Lenz law is saying that the direction is opposite to the direction of magnetic field. Now that is why this minus sign is here. Okay, yes. So yeah, I told you this thing. Now moving ahead. Now what was our epsilon E? What was our electromotive force? E was minus d phi b over dt, and we know what is d phi b over dt. It is this one, minus bdv. Okay, just put the value. We are getting EMF E equals to bdv. Okay, now this circuit having a resistor R here. Now we will talk this R. We will talk about this R. So in a circuit with a resistor, this gives epsilon equals to B dV, and epsilon, what is this? This is like voltage V. Okay, electromotive force has the units of volts. So E equals to IR. We know that. So from these two these comparison, I am getting I equals to B dV upon R. So if we know these terms B and R and D and V, we can get the amount of induced current too. Faraday's law is telling the amount, Lenz law is telling the direction. Okay, now I have a loop and I am rotating it. Then how we can follow the Faraday's law and Lenz? So look at this diagram. This is a loop of area A, and this is the direction of a magnetic field, that is B, and this loop is rotating in this direction, the direction of arrow you can see. So the loop is rotating with angular frequency omega. Okay, so you guys know that the angle equals to angular velocity into time. You know this thing. So theta will be equal to omega into t. So d phi b over dt, what is that? That is phi b equals to b dot a now. That means ba cos theta. So just put those values. B a will come outside. D cos theta. Theta is what? Omega t. I am putting this omega t. The differentiation of cos omega t with respect to t will be a ba omega sin omega t, and due to the oppose of magnetic current with the electric field, we will put this minus sign here, and what we are getting, d phi b equals to minus ba omega sin omega t, and hence we can calculate the value of this epsilon, electromotive force. Epsilon will be equal to ba omega sin omega t. See, these are the results, direct results, which have been asked in exams. I don't know from which year there was a question in NetJR that there is a rotating loop in the magnetic field which is having the direction of theta with the surface area element. Then how can you calculate the electromotive force on that loop, electromotive force induced in that system? So the epsilon will be equal to ba omega sin omega t. You know the recipe. If the question comes, you can do this. This rotating loop problem is also called electricity generator problem. Okay, so this terminology is of very important use. So keep remember. Now, by comparing electrostatic field and induced electric field, what we can get, F is equal to QE in electrostatic field, and in induced electric field also F will be equal to QE. In electrostatic field, voltage difference between 2 points A and B, delta V A B equals to minus integral E dot dl. And the induced electric field, this E close integral E dot dl will be equal to minus d phi b or dt. And this close integral E dot dl was equals to 0 in electrostatic field, and E was equal to delta V in electrostatic field. But here, this line integral is not equal to 0. Induced electric field not having the same properties as the electrostatic field. Electrostatic field is always conservative. Induced electric field is non-conservative. A question was from here in GATE exam. Work or energy difference doesn't depend on path. Work or energy difference does depend on path. It caused by stationary charges or EMF sources, and it is caused by changing magnetic fields. These are two major differences between original electrostatic field and the induced electrostatic field. Okay, so we will talk about induced electric fields obviously because we are reading Faraday's law and Lenz law. So we know that closed integral E dot dl or line integral of E will be equal to minus d phi b over dt, which is Faraday's law. Now suppose there is no conductor is here, nothing, no conductor. So is there still an electric field? In absence of conductor, will there be an electric field? No or yes. So yes, the field doesn't depend on presence of conductor. Okay, so okay, you guys have to remember this thing too. Now we'll moving ahead towards induction and inductance. So you have studied that a moving coil can generate the electrostatic field, or a moving magnet can generate the electrostatic field or EMF in stationary coil, and so on. So when we try to run a current through a coil of wire, the changing current induces a back EMF that opposes the current. You know this thing that the changing EMF will be in opposite direction of the induced current. Okay, why this? This is because the changing current creates a changing magnetic field and increasing magnetic flux through coils of wire. Okay, so you can see in this diagram, if this coil, in this A diagram, if this coil firstly is stationary, we are not moving this. Okay, and we are just increasing this EMF. Okay, increasing this voltage applied, then current will increase. And if we are decreasing this voltage supply, then current will decrease. So these are some normal things. And the inductance means the induction coefficient, we can say L will be equal to N phi B over I. N means number of charged particles. Okay, or sorry, number of turns, not charged particles. Number of turns in the coil, that is N. Phi B you know, I you know. So remember this formula, L equals to N phi B over I. This is your inductance. And for the capacitance, C equals to Q over V. And the inductance unit is Henry. And 1 Henry is equal to 1 Tesla meter square per ampere. Now, if you want to apply the same thing on a solenoid, so what is the magnetic field inside a solenoid? This one, V equals to mu naught Ni. The magnetic flux through the solenoid is phi B equals to integral B dot dA equals to mu naught Nia. Okay, this mu naught Ni is the magnetic field for the solenoid from here, and A is the area obviously. So the inductance of solid will be L equals to, just put the values in this formula, we can get this one, mu naught N square A over L. And we also compare the capacitance of capacitor using C equals to epsilon A upon L. Okay. Now, self-induction. We have studied mutual induction. Induction on one circuit due to another. But what about self-induction? Induction in itself due to its EMF. Okay. Now, uh, so we are able to appreciate that if the two loops are part of the same coil, here are the two loops which are the parts of the same coil, the induction occurs and a changing current in one loop of coil induces a back EMF in another loop of same coil. So for to understand self-induction, what we will do, we will just introduce two coils. Okay, we will generate or apply external magnetic field on any one coil. Okay, and through that some EMF is inducing on another coil. This is called self-induction. So for any conductor, induction L equals to, the inductance L equals to N phi V or I. And for the current generation I, we can get IL equals to N phi V, and we can also write L di over dt equals to N d phi V over dt. And using Faraday's law, we can write epsilon L equals to minus N d phi V over dt equals to minus L di over dt. So this is for self-inductance. The self-induced EMF is opposite to the direction of change of current. So what we are getting RL circuits as an example. Okay. So if we have to apply inductors in circuit and electronic industry, then we introduce some circuits like RL circuit, RLC circuits, and so on. So some common electrical circuits are inductors, coils, and by doping or something else, we can again induce some free charges in them. Okay, so consider one RL circuit having battery EMF E. Suppose this one is that. This is R means resistance, this is L means inductance. So any circuit having resistance and inductance is called the RL circuit. Okay, so so you guys know how to apply the Kirchhoff loop or nodal law. So this is a loop, you can see a closed loop, and we can apply our Kirchhoff's loop rule. So in electronics, you must have studied about it. This is quite easy. So just we'll move from this direction, from the positive side of this battery. Then for the resistance, V will be equal to I into R. And for the inductance, V will be equal to L di over dt. And again equal to 0, circuit complete. So this is the equation. You can see epsilon minus IR minus L di over dt equals to 0. And we can solve this differential equation and get these results. I equals to epsilon over R 1 minus e raised to the power minus R t over L. Okay. So from here we can conclude that there is a rise of current. The temperature is increasing. If the EMF is increasing, current is also increasing. Now for RL circuits, you know I equals to epsilon upon R1 minus exponential minus RT over L. So just I am putting a key here, and for some time I am just closing and opening the circuit. So when time is large, then current I equals to epsilon upon R. That means why this epsilon upon R? This is short circuited. You can see here a black box is coming. Initially it was like this, then it is like this. Okay, and the current starts from 0 and increases up to this maximum I into V. So what will happen now? We can write time tau equals to L over R, which is inductor time constant. Okay, again for capacitor, if there is a capacitance state of this inductor, then T tau C equals to RC. Okay, this graph is showing the same. With increasing the current, VR is increasing. At some point it is being maximum, and after that we are increasing current now, then voltage will not increase. Okay, so again RL circuit. What happens when the switch is thrown from A to B? A to B. Let's see what happens. So A to B, the switch is thrown. Means we have plugged the switch in. So the circuit completes. And if for the using Kirchhoff loop rule, we can get this. Okay, so we are having IR plus L di over dt equals to 0. Now if there is no battery, only if there is no battery, then this side 0, this side 0. Okay, so the decay of current, well, what will be the decay of current? You have to remember this formula. This is the same formula we have studied previously. What will be the voltage of resistor? This one is that. And the voltage across inductor, this one is that. You know all the recipe now, so you can conclude. Now this is an example circuit. This circuit has three identical resistors having R equals to 9 ohm and two identical resistors. L equals to 2.0 millihenry. Battery EMF is also given, epsilon equals to 18 volt. So the question one is, what is the current through the battery just after the switch is closed? Switch is closed means this type. So can anyone tell me the answer? What is the current through the battery a long time after the switch is closed?
Then we can use Kirchhoff law through circuit.
Yes,
So,
we can use.
First, E minus in first loop, we can use Kirchhoff law. So it becomes E minus L over di by dt into minus IR.
Good.
After,
Okay, so you can calculate.
Okay.
You know the recipe.
First,
So,
yes. First we
yes.
can parallel register. Then.
Yes, just I'm telling you some tricks. See here. This was your diagram initially. Now, the battery, what will happen with the battery and the current after I am closing the switch? It is happening. You can see this. Both the conductors are vanished. Circuit is not completing. So the current is only through this R, only 1 R. Yeah, and R having the value 9 ohm. So what am I getting? 18 divided by 9, 2 ampere only. Now, what is the current through the battery a long time after the switch is closed? Okay, so just after it is the condition, and a long time after they will be short circuited. These are some concepts from electronics. You can study them in electronics too. I'm just telling briefly. These are some tricks you, if you will follow, you can solve the questions. So I will be why 3 epsilon over R, because this there are three resistors you can see here, and all the three are in parallel condition. So R by 3 will be there, and you can see this one. So yes, next one is energy stored in magnetic field. So we know that epsilon for these types of circuit, I mean EMF for these types of circuit is IR plus LDI over dt. We can find the power in circuit by multiplying by I, just multiplying by I. So this is the power provided by battery. This first term, I square R, is power dissipated in resistor. The second term is power stored in magnetic field. Always keep remember that the capacitor will store the electric capacity and the inductor will store the magnetic capacity, magnetic energy. Yes. So please keep remember this thing. And power is the rate that work is done. So P equals to dUB over dt will be like this. And after integration, the final result is this one. So just this formula is important. UB equals to half Li square. This is the energy in magnetic circuit. Let us have some brief idea about LC circuit. So what if we make a circuit from inductor and capacitor only? So I've told you that for capacitor, the capacitor will also store the energy called electrical energy, and the inductor will store the energy, magnetic energy. So as soon as possible the battery is on and the switch is closed, like the circuit is completed, what happens? So see here. you can see the animations. Charges will generate positive charge on one side, negative charge on another side. Current will be induced. Current will be induced, will move in the circuit, and that current we can calculate. That's on which side the charges will induce? On the capacitor side, where the capacitor is situated now. So it will store electrical energy, and the charges will be induced on the surfaces, and according to positive and negative, it will work as a battery. So no need of battery in these types of circuits. Those circuits are also called oscillatory circuits. Okay. So this is the summary what we have studied till now in this lecture. More than half lecture is still left. So I have put all these formula in one slide, so that you will note down all these. Just we'll do some questions and then we'll go up to next topic. A uniform magnetic field in the positive z direction passes through a circular wire loop of radius 1 centimeter and resistance 1 ohm lying in xy plane. The field strength is reduced from 10 Tesla to 9 Tesla in 1 second. The charge transferred across any point in the wire is approximately, and there are 4 options. This question is from NET June 15. So basically, the answer is like this. We know this formula now. Epsilon equals to d phi over dt. What is phi? Phi is b dot a. What is a? A is the area of loop. So I can write it as epsilon equals to minus b d over dt, and minus b into h. A means area, means height into depth, means h into x. So h and dx over dt will be v, velocity. So when EMF will be maximum? EMF will be maximum when h is maximum. The length, yes.
Ma'am, I thought question is changed or something. Question number 1 we completed.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, question is changing. So let's understand this one. This is your question to me. I think there is some mistake. Yeah. There is answer, and I don't know how it is vanished from here. It has been vanished from here. So that will be in your PDF. Okay. So I am reading now question number 2. That is, okay, that is a magnetic field B. Can I put it from here? Yes, a magnetic field B is B z cape in the region x greater than 0 and 0 elsewhere. Okay, magnetic field in the z direction. A rectangular loop in xy plane of sides L means along x direction, and H is inserted into the x greater than 0 region from the x less than 0 region at a constant velocity v equals to vx cap. By v equals to vx cap, we can understand that the velocity is in x direction. So which of the following values of L and H will generate the largest EMF? Okay, we have to calculate the values of length and height of that rectangular loop that was in xy plane, so that we can have the largest EMF in output. Okay, so this question was from NET June 16, and yes, here is the answer. So E equals to d phi over dt, and you know this E is equals to The electromotive force is this E, and this phi is magnetic flux. So we can write phi equals to B dot A. A is the area. Area is height into length. So this X he is writing here, but we can also write is L. So B H dl over dt. The minus sign will be always there. So we are getting epsilon equals to minus BHV. V is the velocity. Just keep in mind the EMF will have the maximum value when H is maximum, because you can see magnetic field is given, velocity is given. So the magnetic field and velocity will be same for all those four options. Okay, the B is BZ always, the V is VX always for all these four options. So how can we calculate the answer? We can see that epsilon is being proportional to this H. Okay, so epsilon will be maximum if H is larger, H is maximum. So here you can conclude that the value of H, having maximum value of H, is in B option. So the B option will be the right one. Now let's again see the question number 1. We can do this question too. So a uniform magnetic field in positive z direction passes through a circular loop of radius 1 centimeter. Radius is given, that means you can calculate the area. And resistance 1 ohm lying in xy plane. The field strength is reduced from 10 Tesla to 9 Tesla in 1 second. 10 Tesla to 9 Tesla in 1 second means the change in magnetic field with respect to time. That means this is the value of your flux. Are you getting my point? So the charge transferred across any point in the wire is approximately. And then you have to just calculate the charge. You know the magnetic field, you know the area, you can calculate the phi, you can put it phi equals to epsilon equals to minus whatever the formula is. And then for the charge, you can do I equals to Q over T and Q equals to IT, because you can get the current now. So you can get the charge too. Okay, so I will provide the solution too. By mistake it is not here. Okay, moving ahead. A small topic but important to understand: planetary magnetic fields. You guys have surely studied about Earth as a magnet. We know that Earth is a magnet, a giant magnet, and a conventional theory says that a big magnet is situated inside the Earth, having opposite direction of poles, which we have in our hands. We used to have in our hands. So how we are saying that Earth is a magnet? Every planet in our solar system has a magnetic field. I can say many planets has a magnetic field and Earth is one of them. So if it is the Earth, then the magnetic field lines, the conventional magnetic field lines will be like this one, making loops, okay, around the Earth. A giant magnet is situated just between this Earth, having the poles S for the north pole region of Earth and the pole N for the south pole region of Earth. Okay, so yes, the north pole of Earth has a south polarity. As a result, a compass will always point towards the north. You have seen that a compass will always be stationary in north direction. Okay, so why? This is because of this phenomena. Okay, because of this giant magnet in the center of the Earth. So this is your compass. The needle will be attracted by this south pole. You know now that opposite poles attract, and that is why this compass is basically a magnetized piece of metal now. So this magnet and this magnet will feel some attraction, and this north pole will be towards the south pole. So the conventional direction of that compass will always stay in the north of the Earth. Okay, so the north tip of compass always points, yes, you know this. A magnetic field also protect us from solar wind. Solar wind are some higher energy radiations which are all around to this earth. Okay, solar winds are generating from the sun, and these magnetic field lines are covering the earth. Okay, and these magnetic field lines are protecting us from those high energy radiations and from the solar winds. Okay, so in the solar system, the sun produces a stream of charged particles that spread throughout the solar system. A stream of charged particles having many range of energies. And these streams of charged particles will reach up to the earth too, and these are called solar winds. So this is our earth's magnetic field. We can say this is earth and this is our earth magnetic field. Okay, solar winds are coming. Those charged particles are coming with high pressure, with high energy and high velocity, and stucking with these magnetic field lines. A protection layer, like a protection layer, it is protecting our earth. Okay, so now a question arises that what causes a planet's magnetic field? What is there inside any planet that will cause a magnetic field? So the earth's magnetic field is created in the same way you make an electromagnet. If you are doing you are winding up with some wire, needle or some ferric material, and adding up with the battery, then it is getting magnetized and it has become a magnet now. By the electricity, we are making some ferric material into a magnet. So this is our electromagnet. And the same happening in the earth. What is that? The earth is made of some layers, 4 layers. So this is the conventional diagram. You can see this is the crust, a thin rock material. This is the mantle, a dense and mostly solid rock material. This is the outer core, liquid iron and nickel, having liquid iron and nickel. And this is the inner core, solid iron and nickel. So we can see that the innermost core having solid iron and nickel. So solid iron and nickel are the strongest ferric materials. Okay, ferric materials means they have some domains but situated in different directions. So the basically iron core of the earth, this center core of the earth is an electromagnet, and that is why strong electromagnetic radiations it is generating. And this core is surrounded by liquid iron and nickel. So these types of phenomena are taking place. The electron flow around the core and the magnetic field is produced. Okay. So how can we measure any planet's magnetic field? So that instrument is called a magnetometer. So this is your magnetometer. Okay, a great discovery. And many spacecrafts also carry magnetometers with themselves to measure the magnetic field. Obviously, we want to measure the magnetic field of our planet or Earth. So scientists are attaching the magnetometers with spacecrafts, and so that they can calculate the magnetic field. So some of them are Mars Global Surveyor, Advanced Composition Explorer, and Galileo. These are the names of those satellites. Okay, so like our Earth, other planets also have magnetic fields. Like for example, Mercury. Mercury have the magnetic field 100 times weaker than Earth. Okay, Venus. Venus have the magnetic field 25,000 times weaker than Earth, and so on. So basically, you know that Earth's magnetic field behave like a dipole magnet. So this structure is quite relevant to that. And this is our south pole, this is our north pole. These notations are for compass needles. Okay, These notations are for compass needle. So we have A, B, C, D, some compass we have situated. Okay, so we know that the north and south will north and north will repel, but north and south will attract, and the same is happening with the earth. Okay, so yes, this is the 3D picture. This is the linear picture to the picture of the earth's dipole moment, and that is why the creation of electric currents, the generation of we can say generation of earthquakes and some calamities. Okay, and this is the orientation of earth. We know that our earth is bent at some angle with the latitude. Okay, so that angle, and it is rotating also. So the 3D orientation of earth magnetic field also means that field lines are oriented at different angles. Obviously field lines will also be oriented at different angles related to the relative to the earth surface. Okay, and the rest things are of no use. Yes, it is important when a compass rotates and it will come in a stationary position, then always it will be in north direction. So the north is geographical north pole, but the earth's magnetic south pole. Okay, why so? Because the angle of that compass, we are having some angle of that compass with the orientation of earth. Let us say it is phi. Okay, and some dip angles and some terms are there, we will not study here. And due to this angle theta or phi, the angle will be same was the angle of inclination of earth with the latitude, and that is why this angle is of no use. This is all angle of inclination, and the compass will be always having the direction in north pole. Yes, so the relationship between latitude and angle of inclination, this was, so this is not an important slide. Like, we are moving ahead towards some questions. So two current carrying circular loops, each of radius r, are placed perpendicular to each other as shown in this figure. You can see this is your figure, this is your y-axis, this is your z-axis, and this is your x-axis. The loop in xy plane carries a current I naught, while xz plane carries a current 2 I naught. This loop, this one, having a current I naught, and this one loop having the current 2 I naught. So the resulting magnetic field at the origin is. We have not done these types of questions, and that is why this question is for this question is here. I have told you that for one loop you can calculate using Biot-Savart law, but here are two loops. So what we can do? This question is from NET December 2018. So obviously we'll use Biot-Savart law for loop magnetic field generation in a loop. So we know that field due to loop in XY plane, and I am denoting this by B1. For this loop, let us say for this loop, magnetic field is B1. So the current was I naught, na? So B1 will be equal to mu naught I naught over 2R. Okay, and field due to loop in XZ plane, for this second loop, the current is 2 I naught. So just put this 2 I naught here, and two loops are there, and so the resultant field you will write the sum of those. If there will be three loops, the sum of them will be the resultant magnetic field. Okay, but always remember the direction. This will have the direction of magnetic field in z cap. How can you calculate the direction? How will you do?
Right hand thumb rule.
Yes, right hand thumb rule. So right hand thumb rule you will use, and you can easily calculate the direction of the magnetic field for this loop and for this second loop. and that is why it is having z cap direction, and the second one is having minus y cap direction. Okay, so the resultant field will be equal to b equal to mu naught I naught over 2r minus 2y cap plus z. Next is a small magnet is dropped down a long vertical copper tube in a uniform gravitational field. After a long time, the magnet. So what will happen with the magnet? We are dropping a magnet in a copper tube. Obviously, copper is also a magnetic material. Okay, and the gravitational field is also there. Then what will happen? A, will it attain a constant velocity? So to attain a constant velocity, there will be a constant force applied. Okay, so what is if there is a constant force, then it will also attain a constant velocity. Option B is saying that moves with a constant acceleration. Option C is that moves with a constant deceleration, and option D is execute simple harmonic motion. So the copper tube is open to the both sides. This is your copper tube, and I am putting a magnet, just leaving this magnet from this side, and this magnet is moving into this copper tube. It is coming down. Okay, there is gravity. It will drop down to the earth now. So the earth's gravity will work. Obviously, the gravity for those two particles having mass m, there will be always a force. So this gravity will attract this particle down to the earth. So it will attain some velocity. Now the question is, will it accelerate or deaccelerate? So the gravity is same at all the points of this tube, whether it is this one, whether it is this one, whether it is this one. The value of gravity is same because we know that the gravity doesn't depend on the position of the mass. It is not depending now. So that is why no acceleration, no deacceleration. So B and C options are discarded. Will it execute simple harmonic motion? So to execute simple harmonic motion, there will be again a force which can move this particle upside, but there is no force mentioned in the question. So it will not execute a simple harmonic motion. So basically it will attain a constant velocity and will drop down to the earth after some time. Next question is, consider a particle of electrical charge E and mass m moving under the influence of constant horizontal electric field E and constant vertical gravitational field described by acceleration due to gravity G. If the particle starts from the rest, what will be its trajectory? So the question is, there is a horizontal electric field and vertical gravitational field. Okay, and there is a charge particle having charge E and mass m moving in that field. It is starting from the rest. After some time, like after t time, what will be its trajectory? This is also a good question. So we can use the equation of motion F equals to ma and F equals to qe. The electrostatic force will be equal to the gravitational force. So ma means acceleration, means d2x over dt square. From here, if we are doing one time integral, then dx over dt will be this one. Just at t equals to 0, initially the particle was on rest now. So there was no velocity, v equals to 0. And that is why c1 will be equal to 0. So dx over dt is alpha 1 t. Again, integrating both sides, you can get x equals to alpha 1 t square by 2. Alpha 1 was what? That was QE over M. So just put the value and yes, you can get the result. This x will be equal to QE over M t square by 2. This is for x direction. For y direction, there will be gravitational acceleration. So put mg instead of this QE. Okay, in the y direction, the earth will attract the particle now. there will be no electrostatic force. Okay, so mg will be equal to this one, and you can get the value of y2. Alpha 2 you can get as g, so y will be equal to alpha 2x over alpha 1, and hence there will be a straight line for this type of system. Yes, so this is all for today. If you want to ask me anything, you can ask. One information is there that I will upload assignment of magnetostate. All the questions will be from magnetostatics. So please do that assignment too. Two assignments I have already uploaded. You are not asking the questions. So I hope you are getting all the answers correctly. You are solving them. Yeah.